Hello, BookTube. I went out today and did a bit of a book haul. I've been a little housebound for some medical reasons, and today is the first day I've been able to get out and really walk around. And boy, I was ready to get out of the house. So I went to a couple places. I went to Listen, which is a thrift store, and a charity shop and that I always go to. And then I went to Books A Million, which is a big chain bookstore. So I'm going to start with the bookstore because I didn't I only got one thing there. I spend more money on the one book than I did all the others combined. Well, yeah, I did spend more on it. But it's a book I know. It's a book I've read parts of. It's a book that's been seen on BookTube quite a bit. But when I found this wonderful edition, I got it for, let me see here, I got the receipt right in front of me, $12.97, and it rang up for $35, but it had the sticker on it, and the cashier called the manager, and they got me taken care of. But this is a wonderful book. This is James Mustich, 1,000 Books to Read Before You Die, a life-changing list. It's very personal, idiosyncratic. I think 80 or 90% I would agree with. A lot of things are a surprise to me, which is wonderful. If he just did things the way I would do them, then I probably wouldn't need it. Good descriptions, talks about editions, just every genre you can imagine. So for $12.97, I've been looking to get it. I did buy it from my library that I work for, but now I have a copy for my home. It's in perfect condition. It's brand new. Kill a Mockingbird. So great fun. And sometimes the staff and I at the library will sit down and I'll just start reading. All right, this one is No Picnic on Mount Kenya by Felice Benuzzi, 1910 to 1988, A Flight of Fancy and Adventure in a Time of War. So then we'll all talk about whether we've read it. And it's funny, there's only 3 of us who work at that library. Youth librarian, and then a circulation librarian, and myself. And we do pretty good. But when we run into something we don't know, it's always fun to go track it down. So for $12, $13, I'm thrilled to have it. I have the classical music one, and I think this is even better, although I like the classical music one. So then at the charity shop, there, I need to wet the whistle. I found a really idiosyncratic group of books. And what's interesting about it is when I went in, in the last couple of months has been pretty well organized. It wasn't this time. And I went on some sections where I normally wouldn't look much, like self-help, and then I'd find stuff, or business, and I'd find stuff that didn't belong there. So it made me look, made me pay attention where maybe I would miss things if I hadn't realized that things were a little out of order. So it was fun. No music though. I went to the CD sections, nothing I was interested in. Had one collection of, those of you know what I'm talking about, Alligator Records. It was like a compilation of a couple CDs. Opened it up and there's no CD, so I was pretty disappointed in that. So let me get to the books. So the first one is The Enlightened Mind, an anthology of sacred prose, edited by Stephen Mitchell. And some of you know Stephen Mitchell is a translator. Beautiful copy. Excuse me. One drink of beer and I'm done. Let me see. He's done the Book of Job, the Tao Te Ching, all sorts of stuff, and more since this book came out. When did this book come out? This is HarperCollins publisher, and this came out. It's the first edition from 1991. Big forward. So I just, they have Jesus of Nazareth, obviously. They have Tsutsu, Young Men. Who else? It's hard to see. There's a section to this. There's a science to this. Okay, Baruch Spinoza. So they're only given it at the heading. So Johannes Scotus Erigena. So they'll give like little sections. So I'm glad to have it because it's a mix, and I'll go through it and see what I don't know, which will probably be quite a bit. This next one I got, and I'm going to give it to my wife. This is Sissinghurst, The Making of a Garden, Anne Scott James. Very elegant looking person. This is the story of the world famous garden. This is London, Michael Joseph, and it is from 1974. And my wife is a dedicated gardener. In fact, she was out all day today, her and my daughter, and they both look a little peaked. I think because it's muggy and it's you get out and work for a little while, take it right out of you. But a gardener's work is never done. I guess even in winter they're looking at catalogs, right? So next here, and I do love walking the property because of what they do. This is something I've never seen before. This is Napoleon and Saint Helena on the Island of Exile by Johannes Wilms. Odd shaped little thing. Fits in my hand like that. I got average sized hands. And so it's really squared off. Beautiful end papers of the island. You notice they're not done in contours. They're done these little hatchet marks to show elevation and all that. I've got some old maps like that myself. This is House Publishing out of London. It's a series called The Armchair Traveler, and it's from 2007. Of course, I've always been interested in that story about him being, Napoleon being exiled there. And this is translated by John Brownjohn. I know nothing about this. It goes Arrival, St. Helene, Petite Isle, The Scene of the Crime, Napoleon's Last Battle, The Coming, The Empty Grave, and From Devil's Island to Millionaire's Playground. And that's probably about the island itself. And Johannes Wilms is a historian and journalist. He was in charge of the editorial office at ZDF and later the feature section at another paper. He's a culture correspondent in Paris. His previous works include a book on German and French history. His latest book is Napoleon, a biography. So maybe somebody, I know there's a lot of folks out there who read Napoleonic biographies. So maybe somebody knows this author. If you do, drop me a note. Like I say, this haul is all over the place, and so am I. This next one is by Amartya Sen. He's a Nobel Prize laureate. And this is Identity and Violence, The Illusion of Destiny. A beautiful hardback here, wonderful cover. And this, here, let me get, there's got a lot of little blurbs. Henry Louis Gates Jr. on the inside there. How cool is that? Oh, he's a series editor. Okay, this is Harvard University's series, Issues of Our Time. So they've already had Kwame Anthony Apaya's Cosmopolitanism, Ethics in a World of Strangers, and they had Alan M. Dershowitz's Preemption, A Knife That Cuts Both Ways. And then they had forthcoming authors. W.W. Norton's doing this series, and it is from 2006. Here's our author, the laureate. So, W.W. Norton, 2006. I was at the age of 11 that Amartya Sen first encountered murder. The Hindu-Muslim riots, which suddenly erupted in the 1940s in British India, were led by instigators on both sides. One morning when Sen was playing in the garden of his house in Dhaka, A profusely bleeding man suddenly came up and asking for help. He was rushed to the hospital by Armachia's father, but his life could not be saved. Well, you can't get any more stark than that, can you? So, an author I have not read, and I'm looking forward to it, actually. This is Enterprise, I think is the series here. This is Medici Money, Banking, Metaphysics, and the Art in 15th Century Florence by Tim Parks. Pretty well-known author there. I've read some of his stuff about Italy. The Enterprise is a series, okay. So they got a whole list of titles again. So I seem to be hitting the series. It's Atlas Books, W.W. Norton and Company Incorporated again, 2005. So there's the Medici family tree. Most of us have run into the Medici in our reading somewhere. Here's Lorenzo. So it seems to be a focus on money. So we will see. Looking forward to that, actually. I've read Parks and usually like him. So the next one here is Alan Watts, who was a big deal when I was a young man. This is Taoism Way Beyond Seeking, the edited transcripts, Alan Watts. And this is part of the Love of Wisdom library. Beautiful thing. It was not unusual for teenagers back in my day, which have been in the 1970s, to have large collections of Alan Watts paperbacks. This book will introduce a new generation to Watts' lucid and readable recreation or recreation of Eastern philosophies. And there's Mr. Watts, who was an Episcopal priest. And this is published out of Rutland, Vermont, Tokyo, and Boston by Charles Tuttle Incorporated, which is a wonderful, wonderful publisher. And if you're interested in Asian studies especially, they do some just gorgeous stuff. And some of the older stuff is really, really nice. So this is introduction, and has Philosophy of Tao 1, Philosophy of Tao 2, The World as Organic Process, Being in the Way 1, Being in the Way 2, and Landscape and Soundscape. So nicely printed. I don't remember reading this one, and I probably have. The paperback probably looks really different. And yes, there is more. I'm dragging on here. The next one here is one I didn't know. I know the author quite well. This is Mercedes Lackey, and this is called Guinevere, the White Spirit, an Arthurian novel, which, hey, always go for one of those, right? Some are good, some are bad. You don't know until you read them. This is Daw Books, which is Donald A. Waldheim. And this came out in 2009. So there's the title page. You can see a list of her books. She's done a lot. I've got quite a few of her paperbacks in here. And this came out in 2009. I don't know if I said that. So, inspired by the work of her friend and mentor, the late Marion Zimmer Bradley, best-selling author Mercedes Lackey gives us her own unique spin on the ancient classic tale of King Arthur, seen through the eyes of his queen, Guinevere. The oldest of the Welsh stories and myths of Arthur speak of him as having not one, but 3 queens of that name. Okay, things just got complicated. But we'll see. Could be good. Then, dust came off that one. Then this one, an old favorite. This is Johnny Tremaine. This is a bare hardcover here. Houghton Mifflin, Boston. Novel for old and young, written by Esther Forbes and illustrated by Lynn Ward, which is no small thing. Came out in 1943, and this is much later. A novel I absolutely loved. Loved the illustrations, obviously. But I got this one, so I got Sissinghurst for my wife, but I got this one for my daughter. We're building her quite a nice little library. Many of you will have read this. This is just a wonderful novel. Then this next one is a replacement. So about 2 years ago, Steve Donahue was up here, and he was doing maybe it was 2 years ago, it might have been longer, was doing a read-along and a rant about The Road by Cormac McCarthy. And I had this beautiful first edition copy of The Road on my shelf, and he needed it. Now, you've seen Steve handle books, and you've seen him handle a few of my Folio Society ones, and I'm always sitting there just holding my chest. But I guess Cormac McCarthy's The Road in first edition isn't hard to find, because I found another one for $1. So, and the first one costs $1. So there it is. Just as good a shape as the other. So I guess he didn't get me on that one. And so I will put it back on the shelf just to irritate the fire out of him every time he comes over. Then I got 2 of these New York Review of Book reprints. It's an author I've heard of, but I have not read, which is not a bad thing. And like I say, they were like 75 cents a piece, so there's no sense not grabbing any of the New York Review of Book reprints and just seeing how it goes. These are both by Magda Szabo. One's translated by Len Ricks, and one by George Zertes. I got both of them. Know nothing about either one of them. If you do, chime up in the comments and let me know. Looking forward to this author. I was just reading a little bit about, each of them. I'm not going to get in a lot of great detail because I don't know. But looking forward to expanding out my reading there a bit. And then, oh my goodness, this is like a very long video for me anyway. This next one, yeah, it's got a little bit of a wear here. See that? I can just take a black marker and very carefully fill those little things in and it'll look fine. This is the Oxford Anthology of Victorian Ghost Stories. And this is edited by Michael Cox and R.A. Gilbert. I recently hauled, so I don't read ghost stories much, not because I have anything against them, I just never did it. I recently grabbed the Victorian Edwardian ghost stories and showed it on this channel, edited by Richard Dalby. So this is a different one. Hopefully it's a good one. Most of you will know more about it than I do. It's Oxford University Press, 1991. And let me see. So you got Elizabeth Gaskell, Lafanu, Ackerman, Mullock, Dickens, Hawker, Broughton, Henry James, Anonymous, Mrs. Henry Wood, George MacDonald, Tom Hood, Mary Elizabeth Braddon, Thomas Street Millington, Wilkie Collins, who I know, Anonymous, Amelia B. Edwards, I know Anonymous too, Charlotte Riddell, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Robert Louis Stevenson, Mary Louisa Molesworth, Rudyard Kipling, B.M. Croker, E. Nesbitt, Rosa Mulholland, Jerome K. Jerome, who I know, M.R. James, W.W. Jacobs, Bernard Capes, F.G. Loring, Barry Payne, Mary E. Wilkins, R.H. Benson, Percival Landon, Algernon Blackwood. So, I don't know. Let's see. You see, I'll clean it up a little bit. Can't go wrong with these Oxford anthologies. It's always worth taking a chance for $1, right? So let's see if I can do this. I don't know. I maybe get myself in trouble here. Like I say, we'll put the big book there. Put my Enlightened Mind where it should be, right on the top there. We'll try a Steve Donahue pyramid. I don't know if I can. Yeah, that's not too bad, right? Pretty good book haul. Like I say, the 1,000 books to read before you die was probably the one I spent the most money on, and pretty happy with it. You never know what you're going to find, right? So I hope everybody's doing well, and I will see you. Thank you, BookTube.